name is Maqina from Engeli. Welcome to HCS Chats. So basically, this is a podcast where we'll be speaking about transitioning and being in a workplace environment. I'm not alone today. I'm with Mehul.
Hi everyone, thank you for the introduction, Yibanathi. Yes, as you said, my name is Mehul Panchal, and today we will be talking about obviously transitioning from university into the office space, and obviously that brings about quite a few challenges. So obviously, I look forward to unpacking some of the challenges and mental health issues that we could face coming into from university into obviously the workspace. So let's get into that.
So we're speaking about challenges, but specifically focusing on mental health, right? So after you've transitioned now, you've been working hard at varsity, and then finally you got your CV polished, and then now you're in a workplace. That comes with challenges, and you mentioned that part of those challenges is mental health. I think before we speak about that challenge, what do you mean by mental health, and what do you mean by mental health being a challenge in a workplace, specifically as someone who just come from varsity?
Obviously, if I talk about my personal experience, like for me, I started off university, had my first year, and then it was COVID. Everything closed down. Obviously, I had my sessions, all my classes online, and then obviously finishing university, I came straight into the workplace, which is very difficult for someone who hasn't gotten that external exposure that everyone else gets. So I think for me personally, it was quite a big challenge coming into a closed environment into an open environment. Now I have to interact with everyone. I have to be open with everyone. I have to speak to people, get their clarification and all of that. So it brings about a lot of challenges. It brings about a lot of anxiety. You don't know what's happening in the office space. So I think that's the challenges that we can maybe unpack on and just talk about how to actually just calm down and actually phase yourself into a transition from, you know what, I'm doing all of this for myself. Now I have to do all of this for others because obviously you start working for a company. All the stuff that you do in the workplace doesn't just affect you now, but it affects your colleagues, your peers, and obviously the company itself. So that brings about a lot of pressure.
Okay, that was quite loaded. That's a lot there. So there's pressure as well of being in a workplace and having to work with your colleagues. But I want us to start with whole what do we mean by mental health? That's what I want us to emphasize because this is something that I think everyone is familiar with. When you go out, everyone is speaking about mental health. I want to prioritize my mental health. But what do we mean about that? I think if we can unpack that, then we'll be in a good position to help one as to how then do you ensure good mental state in a workplace. Okay, maybe if I may start according to the definition of mental health. I think that's what you mentioned. When you speak about mental health, we are not mainly speaking about mental illnesses, which majority or most of the time that's what we tend to think about. For example, mental illnesses like your depression, even though I don't think we should exclude it here, like your bipolar, schizophrenia, and all of stuff. I think at this point, when we talk about mental health, we're speaking about a mental state that is able to cope with normal life stresses,
Yeah.
that a mental state that allows one to realize their abilities, which is very important for one, especially when starting at work. And then also a mental state that helps one to be able to learn and to work well, right? And lastly, a mental state that helps one to be able to contribute into their surroundings. So those are the things, how many things that I've mentioned?
Quite a few.
Quite a few, about five. So I think maybe let's touch base each element of that as to how you as someone who just started at work can work on your mental state to ensure that you are able to achieve those things. For example, we said the other one being able to deal with day-to-day life challenges. I think that one matters a lot because as much as you are working, as someone who's starting to work, you need to realize that you still have your own life challenges. You still have your personal at home, you have your problems, but then how do you balance that to ensure that you don't let that affect your work because that counts that
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that people face when they come about from obviously university to obviously the office space. When you're in university, you have your own challenges over there. You have your personal challenges, you have your family issues, your university issues, and all of that. When you come into obviously an office space, you can't bring that trauma with you. because obviously over here you have to act like a brand new person, if I can say. I know it's like a whole phase that you go through of, you know what, I need to leave all my workplace stress at work.
Yeah.
When I come to work, it's a complete different person. Sometimes you can't do that. Some people can easily do that when they come to work and they're like they're a completely different person to who they are back home, or obviously when they leave work, completely different people. But I think it's very difficult to do that for some people, and that's what causes, like you mentioned, you have a mental illness, but with that, there's these underlying stresses that affect that mental illness. So in the office space, obviously, that can either aggravate or it can obviously depreciate depending on how you are in the office space. So I think it's best to define these situations and find your way out of it. And for me, I think the biggest thing that's very good in an office space is finding a colleague that you can depend on. Let's say for yourself, Yibanathi, when we come here, we have this thing where we speak about just us. We can say, Mania, how are you today? All of that, and we can have our chat. So that obviously calms you down as a person within the office space. If you just come here and everything is just stressed, it just affects you a lot more. So I think finding that good balance between your colleagues and obviously your work, knowing when to work and knowing when you can actually have fun with your colleagues, I think that's a very big factor that can obviously help you navigate through these challenges in the workplace, coming through obviously into the workplace.
It's a very important one. So you mentioned two things. Try to try to when you're at work to focus on your work.
Yeah.
That's what you're mentioning, and I think you acknowledge that is very difficult. But I think one needs to try by all means to ensure that sorry, whatever personal issue they have doesn't affect their work. And then just like you mentioned, having someone you can speak to. I think in every workplace, it doesn't matter how it's like, there's always someone you can identify that you can trust, that you can speak with if there is no mental health support that is available. Or you can speak with HR. I think HR can help with that if there is no mental health support that is available. Or you can maybe seek out, there are many organizations out there that provide free mental health counseling, if I can word that way. But you have to find someone to speak with. And and I think it's very important what you've mentioned, having someone in the workplace, because majority of your life you are spending at work. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, how many weeks a year? 52, if I'm not mistaken. But majority of the time you're spending at work. So you also don't want to make your work to be, I don't know, this strange, strict kind of a situation. So that is the other one. So I think you've highlighted, you've ironed out as to other personal stuff you with. Obviously, I'm not going deep. But the second element, I think we mentioned realizing your abilities. That is another one. Mental health has everything to do with you trusting yourself, which is the issue of, let's say, someone just transitioned into the world of work. How then can one have that mental state that helps them to believe in themselves or realize their abilities?
I think with all of that, the biggest factor is actually acknowledging that, what, I do have this issue, or what, I do struggle with this. Obviously, there's always this stigma that we all know, whether it be with the men or with the ladies, that, what, if I have a mental health illness, I can't speak about it. I think you just need to accept it that, yes, I've got this illness, I've got this factor that affects me a lot in the workplace, I get stressed a lot. I think you just need to accept it and then work your way around it. Like we said, finding someone that you can actually lean onto. I think it's a very big thing when there is a mentor available. Like you said, you've got your counselor, you've got HR, you've got all of that. But I think just having a mentor who's not in that position where, they look at you the whole time, but they're just their same level. You can go and speak to this person, and just reach out to them when you've got these issues. You know what? Like, for example, me just coming to you and saying, Hiba, you know what, this is going on in my personal life. How do I deal with it in the workspace? How do I keep it separate, or how do I actually work with it together? Because at the end of the day, our work life and our personal lives need to be parallel, but at some point, obviously, they are going to come close to each other, and we just need to make sure that we keep them separate. So how do we do that? And I think it's very easy if you have someone in the workplace, that can just be there and be like, you know what, don't worry, everything will be fine. I'm here. If you need someone to speak to, just call me, reach out to me. I'm here. And then that person obviously just listens to you, maybe gives you advice, maybe shows you the way. But at the end of the day, I think it's just a really wonderful thing if a company can provide that kind of platform for employees where they've got mentors or someone who they can look up to and speak to. I think for yourself, if you can just pinpoint someone, let's say having someone like a Kumani in the workplace, you can just reach out to that person, speak to them, and it helps you just go along your life as well in the workplace. So I think that's a very big thing that we can touch on.
Very important point. So you just said mentor.
Yeah.
Having a mentor, I think I can emphasize whether you're in a workplace or you're not in a workplace, it's always nice to have that person who's a sounding board. It's always nice to have that person who's gonna give you feedback about yourself, because that is one of the most important things. Give you feedback, and that feedback sometimes can be assuring. When I give, okay, I know you're good with this. That person can help you to realize good stuff about yourself and helps to build that confidence. And then, just like you mentioned, having a mentor, um, you can even have a mentor outside the workplace. I think so. As long as someone is a professional, as long as their traits, as long as someone is a good role model.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't just have a mentor just because someone is older than you.
Yeah.
It's very important to check good traits. Someone should be a good role model, and then it should be someone that you trust, someone that you know has integrity, someone you understand that whatever feedback they're giving you, it's an honest feedback and it's there to build you. So that is a good point. One should find a mentor, someone that will help them to grow, someone that will help them to improve, someone that will point out certain shortcomings. I think lastly, maybe because of time, highlighting part of mental health, obviously, it means being able having that mental state that helps you to learn well and to work well. So working well, it has to do with working with others, right? Now, working with others comes with challenges. Speaking about that, I guess it needs emotional intelligence, because as much as you're taking care of your mental health, there are other people that have their own mental health, which in them not, or while taking care of their mental health, they can affect you some other way, they can offend you. How then do you deal with other people in a workplace that negatively affect your mental health?
I think that's a very good question. When we come into a workplace, we know we're not just coming here for us. We have to understand that there's factors that are out of our control, like you mentioned. There's things that affect everyone else. We're all different. It's not just me coming here and the life or the workplace revolves around me. There's other people who have their problems, who are going through their own issues. And like you said, sometimes their issues can affect you, and then you feel like, "Ah, you know what, this person is so horrible, they don't care about me." But I think it's very important to take a step back and just unpack that, this person could be going through something as well. I think we need to realize their space, what is going on in their life, what's going on in their world. Sometimes a quick question, I know we had to do this, we're not working on good terms. Is everything okay? A question to them can just unpack a lot for you as well. That can also show you the way that, okay, understandable. I see why this person reacted this way, or this person's acting this way towards me. It's not just that this person doesn't like me or they're trying to make my work life a horrible experience. Sometimes they just don't know how to interact with you. So I think from both parties, it's very important that you just, pull them to the corner and just speak to them. Just ask them, how's it going? Or Hiba, you needed to do this for me. You haven't been doing it. What's going on? Is it in your control? Is it out of your control? And then obviously, if you can unpack to me that this is why I'm going through all of this and I'm unable to get to you all of that, that's the reason. And then you can find a way around it. So sometimes you just have to understand that what, other people also have their issues. They've also got their own work. I do get that. What, I've got work that I need from you, and I'm always on you. You know how it is.
Yeah.
But I'm always here. Hiba, I need this. Hiba, I need this. Sometimes we just need to take a step back and be like, what, okay, he's got a lot on his plate. Let's just give him some time. If obviously it continues, then you just reach out. Hiba, we need to do this. What's going on? Are you okay? Can I pull in some way? Sometimes what, it goes a long way if you just offer your own help. Understand that I need things from you, but if I can just help you get it for me, that also goes a long way. So I think it's all about balancing, like we've been speaking about. You've got to balance it. And in a workplace, there's a lot of balancing that needs to happen, whether that's just your work and your personal life, Or it's also just balancing your relationship with your colleagues.
Mm.
Sometimes you have a very relaxed relationship with some colleagues, and you don't let things affect you guys. But then there's times where you actually need to tell that colleague, listen, yeah, at the work time, it's crunch time.
Yeah.
We need to get going. We can put our friendship aside. Now we need to work as corporate baddies, they call it these days. So let's just grind and get the work done, and then we can go back to just being that good colleague or that bad colleague that we have. We can just figure that out at a later stage.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to balance quite a few things within a workspace, not just your personal life and your mental health and all of that. There's a lot that comes about it. Obviously, we can't unpack everything in this
We don't
podcast.
have enough time.
Yeah, we will never have enough time for
But
all of this.
But I think from what you are saying, very important. You mentioned two things: having empathy, meaning being able to put yourself in another person's world. It always helps. Even if someone is being mean, even if someone is being rude, you shouldn't by default be negative.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Try to understand what would make an adult to just to act like this. Probably there's something. And for that matter, a lot of people are going through a lot of things. People have self-esteem challenges, which they try to mask in some other ways, which happen to be rude to other people. So it's very important, just like you are mentioning, and then to understand another person and then being assertive. I think that's what you're saying. Approach the other person, speak to them, family, but yet respectfully. Yeah, that is that. But I guess there's a lot. I think we shared a lot today. I think we are going to unpack more as we are having many topics on the upcoming podcast. So I'm not sure if you have any closing words before we close.
I think from my side, let's just say catch us on HCS Chats again.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.